I'm your host, Jacob Rush, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan Black. We are back, and we're playing with Power. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm recovering. I just got back from a work trip, and so I haven't had a lot of sleep, but I'm glad to be here.
So our voices might sound a little different. It's because Ryan and I are doing this live together in my house at our in my small dining room table. But Ryan and I are not alone today. We actually have some guests on. This is the first time we've actually really had guests on since the podcast has been back for almost a year now, right?
Feels like that, yeah.
You would like to introduce our guests?
Well, first of all, we have the one, the only Traven Jonas.
Oh, Goombessa himself, Lord Goombessa, the god of gaming. Traven is here. What's up, Traven?
Hey, how you guys doing?
This is great, man. You can listen to this episode when you drive back to Ohio if you want.
Uh-huh.
And long absent guest, glad that they were able to return, Brad Huntzinger.
Hey, it's been a while, guys.
Brad Huntzinger, man. Now, Brad Huntzinger, I have to tell you, he's brought a lot of nostalgia that, for me, that was created for today's episode. I wouldn't have it if it wasn't for Brad, so definitely had to have Brad on for this episode. Yeah, and we're not going to do any radical rexing today. We're just excited that we can do this episode, and we're all here. We're going to dive right into the topic, and today's topic, in honor of my 34th birthday, which will be on Tuesday, the day after this podcast airs, it's all about Banjo-Kazooie. This game came out in 1998. I believe it was Banjo-Kazooie was supposed to come out sooner than that, and it got delayed. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I'm trying to pull it up right now, but Banjo-Kazooie originally, though, was introduced through a different game, right, Traven? Do you remember what game Banjo-Kazooie was originally introduced on?
Diddy Kong Racing.
Diddy Kong Racing. Yeah, you had You didn't know about Kazooie, but Banjo was there with his. I don't know if he had a backpack. Did he?
I think a lot of them actually had a backpack in that game.
Maybe he had it. I can't quite remember, but I do know that. He was originally on Diddy Kong Racing, which was the first Nintendo 64 game that I ever played. I mean, at the time, I didn't know anybody besides Diddy Kong for that game and the Kremling. Croc. What's it, Croc? No, Crunch.
Yeah.
I'm really showing my nostalgia here. Crunch for Diddy Kong. Those are really the only two characters I had known about at the time when I played that. Played Diddy Kong Racing at Traven's. But Banjo was there, and he's part of that cast, and I do remember liking him and thinking he was a cool character. But then he got his own dedicated game, which was released on June 29th, 1998 for the N64. But this game, obviously, it started on Nintendo. It's with Microsoft today. We'll talk about that a little later on, but I really want to focus just mostly on our original nostalgic memories for Banjo-Kazooie. Like, where were you? How did you hear about this game? What did you think about this game? And then we'll dissect the game and just kind of talk about it as a whole, right? I can start. Originally, this game, the first time I ever played it, I was before I think I even really, I knew Brad, but I think it was before I really knew him. I was at a Sears with my mom on East Washington Street. And back then, Sears had an upstairs as part of the Washington Street Mall. And we would always go there for like eye doctor's appointments. And you could shop around up there. And I remember my mom, I think we were probably there for an eye appointment or whatever, but it wasn't for me. So my mom let me go. They sold video games at that time. Sears sold video games. And my mom let me go over to the video game section while she did what she had to do. And I remember playing the demo for Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Kazooie 64 was on display there, and I was just, wanting to mess around. I was always obsessed with video games. So that's what I was doing, playing that. And I remember it being the first world. I remember having the big conga gorilla who throws oranges at you. That's why I specifically remember that, and the bull that chases you that cannot be killed. So I just remember seeing that and just again being fascinated. Banjo-Kazooie, it just looked like a fun world, and I wanted to be in that world so bad, and it's very well possible at this time. I don't even think I had a Nintendo 64 yet. Because we didn't get it when it first launched. It was a surprise. I've told that story on this podcast before. It was later on. But then as I I did my second year of first grade because I got held back. I met Brad in Mrs. Zorn's class, and Brad and I struck a friendship, and I came over to his house a lot, and Brad had the game, and I played a ton through Brad. We played it many nights at his place. So honestly, when I think of Banjo-Kazooie, I think of Brad. I think about those summer days of 1998, 1999, and that's my original memories with it. But Brad, I'll toss it over to you. What do you first remember about this game?
Yeah, so Banjo and Kazooie, lots of fun memories. I remember getting it for my birthday and being disappointed. Because I was like, I wanted like a Mario game. And apparently my parents went to the store and talked to the guy, and they're like, yeah, this is just like Mario 64. You like go around, explore, open world, beat up bad guys. It'll be awesome. And I was like, what the heck? And then I played it and was hooked. Jacob was over playing it. I don't think I ever actually beat Banjo and Kazooie. Because Jacob loved it so much, I let him borrow it, and I don't even know if I ever got it back.
I'm pretty sure I brought it back, but I do know that I borrowed it and I did beat it entirely.
Oh, yeah.
I do remember that.
But it was so fun. I love that game so much. I even, we named our dog after one of the levels. Rusty. It was after
Rusty Bucket. But really? I didn't realize that. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
It was great. Had a blast.
Well, Traven, how about you? I know you. So Traven and I was friends with Traven before I was with Brad, and I know that Traven had the game. It was in the basket next to the TV that you always kept all the cartridges in, but we never really played it very much.
No, I think we were playing mostly multiplayer games whenever you came over.
We were.
Diddy Kong Racing.
We were.
So as far as Banjo-Kazooie, I know I didn't beat it. Don't remember how far I got exactly. I know I didn't get to the last stage where it changed seasons, because when I saw that at Jacob's house, I thought that was a really cool concept for a world.
Yeah.
I remember my favorite stages were the beach stage and the swamp stage where you can turn into an alligator.
Yes.
One thing I do know about Banjo-Kazooie is I introduced Jacob to the world of modding Banjo-Kazooie.
He did.
And he got to play with stuff like the Christmas versions and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, that's fun. It's like playing a new chapter to Banjo-Kazooie these days.
Mm-hmm.
So Treasure Trove Cove, and I think it's Bubble Gloop Swamp are the ones you remember the most. Yeah, Bubble Gloop Swamp.
So, I'm pretty sure I got past that, but I don't remember how far it was in the game. I definitely didn't beat the game or get to that last world.
It makes me kind of sad to hear that you didn't, beat it or fall in love with it like I did. But hey, what can I say, Ryan?
It was a hard game though. I mean, I remember we played it back through again with Jacob recently.
Yeah, we've been.
And we get to the final area of Grunty, and you have to do that puzzle.
Yeah.
Here we are, adults, looking up all the answers on our phone because we can't figure them out ourselves.
Yeah. And we, thanks to the modern age of save states, Brad and I shamelessly save state through some tough areas.
Oh.
Well, in Rusty Bucket Bay, it was particularly as we replayed it, it was the fan. There's a part where you have to hit a switch, and then you have to go down this long tunnel. You have to fall down it, and there's a giant fan that like all the gears inside the ship are moving, and you have to maneuver through the gears, collect the Jinjo, hit it. I think you have to hit another switch in there, and then you have to get out within like 30 seconds or something like that, and then you have to jump into the water that suffocates you because it's full of gas and oils, and then swim up into the propellers and get the Jiggy. All within 30 seconds. And you if you screw up remotely in the gear area, it's an automatic kill. You die. You lose all your health, and you have to start over. And
All the notes.
That's really actually the most frustrating part was you die, you lose all your progress on notes, and you have to recollect everything in the whole level. So yeah, I mean, the game is no slouch. It's tough, and it's so funny if I go back to an old game today as an adult, and I think I'm like, how did I beat this as a kid? You know, like there's I know in 2E coming up, because I was thinking about it, like the Grunty Industries is like well known as like one of the hardest levels, especially in that game for 3D platformers. And I remember trying to replay it maybe 10 years ago and stopping at that world because it was so confusing and hard. But I know I beat the game as a kid, so I'm just kind of like, how did dumb, second grade me figure it out? But me as an adult is getting stumped. It's kind of funny. But Ryan, what about you? What's your original memories with Banjo-Kazooie?
So back in the day, when I didn't have an N64, I would always go to my friend Zach's house, and he had an N64, and we played games like Shadows of the Empire, Star Wars, and Diddy Kong Racing, and when we weren't doing the Diddy Kong Racing multiplayer, they dusted off Banjo-Kazooie, and I got to play that,
yes.
and I had some comparison. I had played Mario 64 before, and I realized then they let me run around in the first world. And I did the butt stomp, which is the beak attack that you do, slam into the ground. Yeah. And I remember that feeling so much with the rumble and everything, like feeling so satisfying compared to Mario doing the ground pound. And I was like, I kind of like this better. And so that was kind of my initial and I like destroying those huts with the ground pound and everything. And those are kind of my initial memories. Remember, I really enjoyed how it felt and how it was different. And you could run faster, and you could do flips and stuff similar to Mario, and it just felt like it was different enough from Mario 64, and it had that charm to it that I was like, I want to play this game more, and I never really got to play more of it after that, but up until much later in life.
On the 64, yes.
Yeah.
It's funny you said that Katlowski because that's what when I graduated high school, when I was in high school, I kind of was not as obsessed with video games. I was really into my band, girls, and Jesus. I would say it was my top priorities, and so gaming really just took a back seat. Besides a game I get for Christmas or something. But then when I graduated high school is when I started to get really nostalgic. And my first job was working at a company called A1 Awards, and the people who Ryan just mentioned, it was their family's company because we knew them through our church. And so I got a job there, and I got connected and made a friendship with the guy that Ryan just talked about. His name is Zach Katlowski, and we would hang out a lot. And to this day, he gave me his that copy Ryan's talking about because that's the copy I own today for my 64, and I have it in a nice case over there. So, what a small world, right?
How do you feel that that I played your pre-owned copy of Banjo-Kazooie before you even had it?
I think the world is strange, man. I think that's pretty wild.
We also worked at very different times from the same company too, because I worked at A1 Awards for I think a summer or two. So
yeah, absolutely. It was my first real big boy job I ever had. But So besides that, I mean, those are kind of all our initial memories. This game is not gone. It's not gone on in the future as just a game that was like that came and went. Banjo-Kazooie is regarded as like one of the greatest platforms of all time, and I personally believe that it is superior and far better than Mario 64 ever was. Which is a big thing because I mean, nostalgically, Mario 64 is my favorite Mario game, and I love 3D platformers. I mean, Mario Odyssey, I would argue, took a lot of beats from Banjo-Kazooie with the approach of the smaller moon pieces and collecting and moving on. Whereas, like in Banjo-Kazooie, you collected the jiggies and you kept moving forward in a level. Whereas Mario 64. It laid the groundwork for what a 3D platformer should be, right? It was the launch game for the 64. But the Banjo-Kazooie comes along 2 years later and does everything that game did, but with more character and personality. Like we were just playing Astrobot before this episode, and if you haven't played Astrobot, it's a game brimming with personality and new ideas, and that you can experiment with. And that's what makes it so fun. And I think that's what Banjo-Kazooie did during the 64 days. And it really just evolved the 3D platformer and gave it more goofiness. Obviously, Banjo-Kazooie is full of goofy personality, right? Way more. Mario can be very stale, I think. At least back then, there was not much talking. And there was no witch saying rhymes throughout the whole building as you walk and run around everything and saying dumb stuff. The game was just silly and had googly talk, and everything had googly eyes. And I don't know, this game has built a legacy, and it's got a strong hardcore fan base about the game. So let's dive into the game. Let's talk about the game. The first area, as soon as you start it up, you obviously has this intro, which was cool too. Think about this. I mean, it had a cool cutscene at the time. 3D cutscenes were new. Again, this was to all you kids. If any kids listen to this podcast, like to you, like who cares about a cutscene? You know, to us, this was the first time era of diving into 3D gaming. Like gaming hadn't done this yet, so it's cool to get dialogue and you see like, you know, Grunty up in her castle, and she's talking and with her dingbot pot and arguing, and it has the whole scene play out. And when she goes and kidnaps Banjo's sister Tootie, and then you get to venture out into this open world area of Spiral Mountain. I guess it's not really an open world today, but back then it felt like an open world. This massive playground, the sandbox where you get to explore these lush golden, there's like golden crop field areas, waterfall, a lot of green, and you get to learn the game self-teaches you. You go to each area with Mr. Bottles the mole, and he teaches you a new mechanic to the game. And it was a fun way to introduce young kids to how do I play this and what is it teaching me. Anyone have any, like, what do you remember about this first area of the game, Spiral Mountain?
I mean, kind of like you said, it was just like a fun, like, little areas of mini games, each teaching the different moves. I remember going back to it and being frustrated by the fact that, like, you couldn't do the move until you were taught it.
Right.
So if you didn't find the right area, you're just like, wait, why can't Kazooie come out and fly with me?
Yeah.
Like, you kind of feel naked after you play the game without it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a fun little area. It's a nice, quick, easy tutorial. It introduces the world.
You know, if I'm being honest, like the whole intro to it, I think is nostalgically for me, it's probably one of my most favorite parts of the game. Simply, like, I resonate a lot with Banjo-Kazooie because it reminded me, even though we don't live in, like, Virginia, we're living in Indiana, it's all flat, but, you know, so mountainous-wise, I can't relate, but, like, it's got, like, a country feel, and I grew up on a farm, we had fields that surrounded my house, and it just kind of reminded me of home a little bit, and that's what I think I really loved it so much like that. And I love woodland creatures and that kind of an environment. But I mean, we're not going to go level to level. Does anyone have any like favorite levels that they remember the most, that they enjoyed the most? Ryan?
Yeah, for me, Clanker's Cavern. I absolutely love that level so much. I love Clanker, and it's weird because like I was terrified of Snacker the shark, and the beach level, but like I love Clanker, and I don't know what the difference is. They're both basically sharks. I mean, I guess one's kind of more of a robotic one, but I liked being able to set Clanker free, and how Clanker was kind of a garbage disposal for Grunty's refuse, and I really like that the setting and like exploring the sewer like area and getting the different areas. Like I don't know, I just really love that aesthetic, which is weird because I don't think I've picked it up in any other kind of video game. Maybe I don't know. It kind of draws on some of the theming from the levels. Like there's a level I really liked in Shadows of the Empire for Star Wars when I played it. That was you're kind of like in the sewers and you're like underwater and like sewage water stuff like that. And I don't know, I kind of enjoyed that, so maybe that's where I drew that. But I can't say I've ever played another game like that where I've been like excited to play a garbage level, but it was just something that was very, very memorable for me, and I really, really enjoyed like getting there, even where you have to like swim through like maybe it's my roots with Mario and pipes and plumbing. I don't know.
Yeah. Traven, what about you? About Clanker, you got any comments on? You remember Clanker's Cavern?
Kind of. It's that one area with the big metal shark in the middle of it, right?
Yeah.
I think that might have been where I'd left off at. I don't really remember.
Okay. I do remember. I do have a memory of like being at Bubble Gloop Swamp, which I think comes after this, at your place, playing through that. So
yeah, I definitely went to the swamp because I played as the alligator a lot.
Yeah, that's the next world.
Okay.
So you had to go through here to get to there.
Uh-huh.
What about you, Brad? What do you remember of it?
I know you don't like this level, but I love the snow level.
Oh.
The giant snowmen.
Yeah.
But you gotta fly and knock their hats, and that's pretty rough.
Those snowmen they suck, and they're actually they taunt you and they throw snowballs at you the whole time. They're really annoying unless you figure out how to get rid of them, which you can't do until you can fly, and then you have to be really precise. But on Clinker's Cavern, I totally remember that shark just freaking me out as a kid. Like, I mean, it is intimidating, right? And if anyone knows me, my least favorite things in life are, and it translates to video games, are underwater levels. Which is ironic because I love so many underwater like music levels. I love the music, but underwater levels I hate because like I'm just always scared of like a giant shark. Because in the real life too, like I'm not out swimming a shark. I'm screwed if there's a freaking shark or a whale chasing me. So I have a lot of real fears about that, and I don't like really high. I have a massive fear of heights, so I don't like levels that are high up in the sky and falling. And this level definitely contributed to the underwater thing with a giant. I mean, thankfully the shark is friendly and you're actually helping him out. But when you swim through this tunnel and you pull out and he's just like right there in your face, it's pretty scary. But going back to what Brad talked about, it's ironically it's weird that I don't like Freezeezy Peak. I mean, it's better than the Mario 64 Snow World, I think. It's mainly those snowmen I don't care for. But this is more of like a Christmas theme, and I will say I love Christmas. Like, winter's my favorite time. I do like collecting the presents. I love the twinklies. I think that and that whole that might be my favorite part is the twinklies, where you gotta like kill all these little monsters that want to eat them, and they gotta light up the Christmas tree to get a Jiggy. And that's one of my favorite parts for that level. Any thoughts on Freezeezy Peak, Traven?
I don't really remember much about Freezeezy Peak.
Probably didn't get to if you stopped at the Bubble Loop Swamp.
Well, I don't know exactly where I stopped. I know I didn't do the Egyptian stage or the Haunted Mansion stage or...
Oh, man. You missed out on the Haunted Mansion.
Well, the way you guys are reacting, it sounds like I didn't miss out on much.
No, I love that one. That's a fun one. Gobi's Valley is the desert. I don't care for Gobi's Valley.
I like that one a lot.
You do like Gobi's
Yeah,
Valley.
yeah, I like that one a lot, especially with the spitting camel.
Yeah, you pick on that camel and he shows up multiple times throughout the game in other levels, but I've never been a fan of, I don't like desert heat levels. Like, I think they're boring and I don't like quicksand and it's just not my thing. Like, especially even in Mario 64, the whole desert one, I hate that one. Brad, did you like Gobi's Valley?
I thought it was alright. It definitely... I think it was a little rough because, from what I remember, certain areas of the quicksand were instant deaths.
Yes.
And any areas in the game
Well,
where you could have instant deaths was just devastating. Because even though like it fools you in thinking that like the jiggies are the most important, but when you get later on in the game, you realize, oh no, I've got to collect the notes.
The notes,
That
yeah.
was hard.
I totally remember as being kids, like we would get to a note wall, and so like the cool part about Grunty's like lair is like it's a whole world in and of itself, and you're maneuvering through it to get further up to the top, and you got note walls that block you from going through. And if I remember very well being a kid, you're like, man, we can't get past this part. We need more notes. So then you have to go backtrack, and back then, like you said, if you leave a level or you die, like it doesn't erase your note count. Like it internally saves how much you did, but it doesn't like save you. If you collected 63 pieces, it doesn't save you there. You got to start over, recollect everything, and then it'll tell you, hey, you passed your music note mark. Congratulations. But Gobi's Valley, I don't think there were permanent. I think you're thinking of Mario 64 had some instant quicksand kills. I don't recall that in Banjo-Kazooie, but I do.
I thought there were certain ones.
There were certain places that could get you.
It's possible, maybe.
Because you had to have the boots to get across it, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I knew you could get hurt. There's like little snake things in there, and they bite you.
Maybe that's what we're thinking of.
I specifically, two things from this world that I specifically remember the most was I remember it was one summer day at Brad's house. We're playing it. There's that mummy hand in the ground, and if you run over to it just as regular Kazooie or Banjo, he like grabs the jig and goes into the ground. You have to get the speed shoes. You know what I'm talking about? The fast running shoes. You have to run. You have to like jump in his hand and swoop it before he gets it. I specifically remember trying to do that one summer at your place, and then I also remember, and what you have to go. They have a bunch of temples you can unlock and pyramids. And there's one specific one where you have to get through like a maze within a certain time or you'll die. Like the roof is like collapsing in on you or something like that. And you have to get through it, which again is an instant kill. And if that happens, you start over. So there's a lot of nail biter moments in that one. We did kind of skip over. I mean, Treasure Trove. I do want to maybe. Treasure
Trove Cove is good.
Treasure Trove Cove, Mumbo's Mountain, and Treasure Trove Cove. I think we can gently talk about them real quick. I mean, they're the most easiest. I don't want to say they're the easiest. Mumbo's Mountain's the easiest. Mumbo's Mountain is just the most. It's a great intro level, honestly. I mean, like it's the first level where you're going to have some real competition, like some enemies that are going to come at you. In Spiral Mountain, you just got jumping vegetables. You know, they're not going to, unless you're a kid like that's 3 years old, doesn't know what you're doing. It's not going to be hard. This, you get to experiment. You get to have your first transformation from Mumbo himself. It introduces who Mumbo is, and he is a key character where you get to transform into other characters. And you've seen that now in platformers take place where your main character, you get transformed into a tadpole or a worm or something, you know, and you have certain abilities. I mean, Astrobot there's a whole level where you like get little characters and he like shrinks you down like a little mouse and you gotta do all these areas and go as like a mouse and stuff. So and you can grow back into an adult, a giant robot or whatever. But Mumbo's Mountain was fun. Mumbo himself he is a funny character. Anyone comment on Mumbo?
He's my favorite thing about the whole game.
Yes.
Like I love Mumbo so much. Everything about him, he can transform. He is the highlight of it because he can make you become other characters or other creatures and stuff. I think that's the biggest draw for me. And thing that I'm looking forward to when I play Banjo-Tooie.
Yep.
Is just having new transformations, because the transformations are so cool, and being those different things, like being an ant walking around, and
termite. I'm sorry.
Termite. Sorry, yeah, you're right. And then just being the crocodile, as we mentioned, or the alligator. I'm not sure which, but just being the different types of characters, and then some of them get kind of outlandish. I hear was it a washing machine or something?
Well, you could accidentally. It would be random. You could accidentally get transformed to a washing machine and be like, "Oh, that was a mistake. Sorry," and then he'll turn you into something else. I like Mumbo because he's just he's funny. I mean, he's just the dumb. He's a really dumb character. He thinks he's the greatest shaman around, and he's actually really lazy, and he wants you to collect all the Mumbo skulls to give him energy when really he should be doing it. And it's funny too, because every time if you die at Banjo-Kazooie or you quit the game to save it, it always is a game over screen, and then it shows what would happen if you lost, and then Grunty steals all of Tootie's beauty and turns her into an ugly beast, and she's this sexy looking grown adult witch now, and Mumbo completely, he shows up and he's just shows up. I mean, all game long he's bashing her when you talk to him, how much he hates this woman Grunty because she cursed him to be this shaman ugly looking thing. And then as soon as she gets all hot, he immediately drops anything he hates, and he just shows up with flowers, and he wants to woo her over. You just see the I don't know, the dumb guy Mumbo really is, the sleaze bag he really is.
Wasn't it lore or something that they used to be together?
Yeah, I think so.
I think he taught her. I think the lore says that he taught Grunty how to do magic, essentially, and then she eventually outgrows him in that capability, and yeah, that's the story of the lore. So, but yeah, Mumbo. He's not on every level, but he's a big part of this game. And like what Ryan said in Tooie, he is a huge part in that game. So, Treasure Trove Cove, real quick, we'll touch on that. I think, when a lot of people think of Banjo-Kazooie, they think of either Mumbo's Mountain, they think Treasure Trove Cove. Treasure Trove Cove has got one of the greatest tracks in the whole game, the beach music. Grant Kirkhope really outdid himself with that one. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I remember it a lot. But it also gave me nightmares, a lot of fear. Remember I said I have fears about water. I have fears about sharks. And we got Snacker. I think his name is Snacker? Snacker, whatever his name is. He will... as soon as you touch the water, it plays a similar Jaws theme to Snacker. And he'll come trying to snack on you. And you gotta get out of the water, or he's gonna bite you. And it always terrified me if I accidentally fell in the water. So I always had a lot of anxiety around that level. Anyone remember Snacker at all? You remember Snacker, Traven?
Uh-huh. I think I remember me and my brother used to play the game a lot, and I just jump in the water and make the shark chase me and then jump back out of the water.
I think this was the first time I discovered I actually had anxiety. Seriously, I would avoid that water like the plague.
Yeah, I was instantly terrified the moment I jumped in. No, gotta get out. Immediately get out. Try to
terrifying.
jump. Try to jump as much as you can so you don't alert him.
I mean, he only does 1 damage, so I wasn't really concerned about him.
Yeah, but when you're a little kid, you don't... my brain wasn't being logical. I just knew a shark was chasing me, and I didn't like it. But you can actually, knock him out for a little bit. If you, do the egg reverse, where Kazooie throws eggs out the back of the bag... Yeah, you can actually hit him 3 or 4 times, and he'll be stunned for a little bit before he comes back after you. So, but yeah, this was a fun level. Banjo-Kazooie, one thing that was very interesting about it too is that Nipper. He's a crab guy in a shell. He is not really a boss, but he feels like a mini boss. Banjo-Kazooie is really unique because the whole game doesn't have any really bosses in it. In Mario 64, a lot of the worlds had a boss fight, but this one didn't. The game, Nipper, I'd say, was maybe a mini boss fight, and there's a different mini boss fight later in the game too. But Nipper, he just made me think of it. But yeah, the game in general didn't have many boss fights, which was unique for the time. So I wanted to touch base on those. And then, well, we brought up Bubble Gloop Swamp. I mean, anyone want to touch base on Bubble Gloop Swamp? This one gave us a hard time, Brad, when we played it last time. You can't get in the swamp, or you get shoot up on.
I like turning into the alligator.
Yeah, the alligator's fun. But
Alligator's fun until you have to face off against the other alligator.
until the red one, Mean Mr. Vile. I think that's probably the worst part of this whole thing. I love turtles. I always love Ninja Turtles, so I love like Tip Tup's in this, who's also in Diddy Kong Racing. He's in here. You can get a jiggy from him. He's like the composer. Be a Mastero. It was cool to see him back, because he was a cool turtle in Diddy Kong Racing. So they added that character into this story. But yeah, Mr. Vile, though, he sucks, man. I hate Mr. Vile because I think you always have to lose a couple times, because if you lose to him, well, one, it takes a minute to do his activity, because there's like 2 or 3 rounds. And if you lose to him, he'll bite you, and it's like a one-hit kill, right? Either it's a one-hit kill, or he takes you all the way down to 1 health.
Yeah, or it's a lot of damage, and then it's just like you're at your own risk to go find more health.
I mean, I know if he bites you, he'll keep coming at you, and I do have scarring memories of dying to Mr. Vile. Yeah, not a fan of Mr. Vile. That's really much I have to say about Bubble Loop Swamp, though. I mean, it's I like the turtles. That's about it. But so we got to talk. I think probably one of the most signature levels in the game is Mad Monster Mansion.
Oh gosh.
What, Brad? You seem like you hate this one.
Yes.
Why?
I remember hating this one too. I don't know exactly why, but yeah, not a fan.
Mad Monster Mansion is where I first ran into a note wall that I couldn't pass. And I remember trying this level over and over again. And there's just so many little sections with just like 1 or 2 notes.
Yeah.
I would just get lost, and then I'd be stuck in the pumpkin and couldn't find Mumbo's place again to turn back.
Yeah. You had to go down a toilet. This is one of the most craziest things you've probably ever done in a video game time. You literally go down a toilet. You have to get yourself flushed down a toilet. And then, like, even when you go in there and do it, it's like making fart sounds, and it's clearly a gross place. And when you come up, Grunty even says, like, I can't believe you just went down there. Like, I really didn't think you were going to do it. Like, she recognizes how disgusting that was. But yeah, I have to our listeners who can't see us, I have my guidebook out, my Banjo-Kazooie Nintendo Power official guidebook that I bought off eBay a long time ago. And yeah, Brad's right. The notes, they're really staggered very loosely throughout the whole level. I mean, you got 2 here, 3 there. I think the most is on the church. It looks like there's 14 on it and 10 inside. But besides that, there's a lot of, there's like small numbers just placed throughout the whole level. So, I think it probably happened to us last time we were playing it. Like, I specifically remember, like, where's these last pieces? Like, we're almost done with the level.
97.
You're all right. Great.
Oh, no, there's one spot that I missed.
Yes, and
and then you find a spot and there's only 2 notes there, and you're like, no.
Where is the one? Yeah, that is frustrating, and I would say that is the worst with Click Clock Woods when we get there.
Oh gosh.
But so after this, Rusty Bucket Bay. Rusty Bucket Bay. We already mentioned at the top. Rusty Bucket Bay. This is a hard world, man. Like, I think when you get to Rusty Bucket Bay, this is when the intensity of the game really just like it just catapults up. I mean, the enemies can hit you harder, take more health. The water itself is a hazard. Like, if you get in the water, you lose health. Like air, like you can be swimming on top and you're losing breath because it's like toxic water, essentially gas, and not taken care of. And there's a whole little section where our snacker, the friend, shows up where you get trapped in a cage. It's like fenced in, and you only have like a little hole to get out of it, and snacker's in there, and you got to jump in there to get a Genjo. The whole level is just really hard. There is a mini boss fight in it, like we talked about, the instant death with the fans. Any fond memories of Rusty Bucket Bay? The music is cool. I'll say that. The music is very unique. Brian, any comments on Rusty Bucket Bay?
I don't know how to say it other than it felt like an N64 level. I don't know how that, like, I don't know, like...
Well, it was on the N64.
Maybe the shipyard and the ship or whatever, it kind of reminds me of, like, GoldenEye for some reason. I don't know, like, I just...
could see that.
I just feel like it's very... It's a more, like, I guess,
Crusty?
more mature world.
Crusty.
Yeah.
It's a crusty kind of stage.
Yeah. Well, you never made it here, Traven, but yeah, it's a hard level. Don't recommend it. I'm looking forward to get through it. Any comments on it, Brad?
I mean, it's my only recommendation is you can play through it for the jiggies, but then when you're ready to go for the notes, do the inside of the ship with the insta-death first.
Yeah, that's a great point. Brad and we said that when we played it. It was probably in the summer. We were playing this area where we said, like, we should have done this first because the chances of you dying are so high. Or at that point, we had done pretty much everything else, and then we died. So then it's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? So thankfully, we have save states today. So Brad and I save stated our way through that sucker. Every inch we made a new. All right, save state it quick.
Those cheat codes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But hey, back in the day, you had to get good. You had to get good. Okay, well then after that, Click Clock Woods. Click Clock Woods is hard, but I think it's the most unique and it's the most fun level in the game. It is super clever, and I think at that time, I think it was a game mechanic ahead of its time. Like, I really do. Like, you essentially like almost leave the level and go into a small hub, which is still connected to that level you just left. And you got different versions of the same level, all 4 seasons. Traven, you mentioned at the top of the show that like you saw this mechanic like later on when you've seen me play it before. What do you think of Click Clock Woods? You never played it yourself.
Well, yeah, I played it on your Nintendo 64. You had it unlocked, and I thought, oh, this is really cool. And I remember you letting me play it, and I remember getting to fly around as the bee, and I thought that was pretty cool that the whole level was kind of built around flying around with the bee. And I liked how it changed based on the seasons. So I do remember playing it a bit, but I mean, I was almost more of a tourist since you kind of already finished everything in the stage. So I got to experience all the fun parts and none of the challenging parts. So I really loved the level back when I played it. Ryan,
what about you?
I don't remember this one as much because usually, like, I didn't get this far in my just regular playthroughs of the game, and then when I beat the game, of course, I played through it. But it didn't stick in my memory.
Xbox, if I recall.
Oh yeah. I played on 360 when I beat it. So when I finally had access to it again, I didn't have a 64 for the longest time, and so when I was waiting to find another way to play it, and sadly we didn't get another port to Nintendo, and so the next thing that was available was a 360, and I already had it, so I might as well pick it up.
I do remember that, and I was happy for you, but still, it's hard. Xbox. Brad, what about you? I know we have played through this level before as kids and recently. We just did over the summer. You start off in the spring, and then you venture off into the summer, fall, and the winter.
Yeah. No, I thought this level was super cool. However, as a kid, this is where I met my match.
Yeah.
This was the wall that I could not pass. It's like, all the other levels, yes, you get stuck and you have to try them over and over again, but it is so daunting to like go into a level and realize that it's just like, oh shoot, like it takes forever to search one level. This is 4 in 1. You got 4 different seasons because Banjo-Kazooie, I mean, you don't have to, but to some extent, to kind of beat the final boss, you really do have to go through the levels as a completionist.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the final bosses are really, really hard, and you get punished if you're not playing as a completionist.
Final fight is extremely hard, and Brad, and you're so right, and we'll talk about the final fight soon. But I will say, like, I think what's so cool about this is that, like, in the real world, every season something happens, and like that's how like nature takes its course, right? You know, and things die in the winter, and then in spring things start to come back to life. So you do things in the spring that then later on affect other things in different seasons. So it's like you're almost time traveling. You plant like there's a flower that gets planted you plant in the spring, and then in the summer it's like grown so much, and then by the fall it's in full bloom, and you can like get a jiggy at the top of it. The beehive, you talk about being a bee. You can't be a bee, and like I don't think you can get transformed. There's only like I think the summer and the spring might be it's just the spring. The spring's the only time you can be a bee, because the other times bees aren't. I think Mumbo's like too hot in the summer. Like, it's too hot to do magic, so he won't turn you. And then the fall, he's like, I got all these leaves in my hut, man. I can't. I got too busy raking up leaves. And then in the winter, he's like gone. Like, he's like on vacation because it's snowy everywhere. So I'm pretty sure it's only the springtime you can be a bee. But that there's like a giant beehive, and that has a jig in it, and you kill them all in the spring. Like, you got to go in there and beat them up to take the jiggy, and then you see their beehive get destroyed. And by the summer it's vacant. Same with the winter, and then or the fall, and then by the winter it's like completely caved in, like it's been destroyed or whatever. But then there's a baby bird that is a little baby in the spring that he's at the top of the tree basically, and you gotta like feed him worms, and then each season he gets a little bit. He goes back to bed and he wakes up and he's hungry again. He's like he wants more worms, and by the time you get to the winter, he's a full-grown bird with feathers. He spreads his wings out and flies away, and he drops a jiggy for you. So it was just really fun, really clever ideas that they put into this level that I, to this day, am fascinated by. And each season, the music as well changed like to fit the season. And when it was the winter, it sounded more like a winter level. It wasn't like the same song that just played. It was the same song, but different variations of it, which I thought was really cool. And in the spring too, like leaves on the trees are like that you jump across are like super tiny because they're just now starting to grow, and then like in the fall some of them have fallen off. In the summer they're in full bloom. Just a really fun level. But I have to say the hardest part is I think those jiggies, man. I mean, we're looking. I got it pulled up right here. You can see
notes?
the notes. Each season has a different account of notes. And as a whole, they'll make 100. But, like, if you're stuck, you got 4 seasons to try to go through and climb this giant tree and make sure that you went through every area and inside the tree and not miss anything. So that was very frustrating because I remember, like Brad was saying, like, we got, like, 3 notes left. Which season is it? Mm-hmm. And is it inside the tree? Is it outside the tree? That's very hard.
If you don't have that little cheat book you got there, good luck.
Yeah, we had to really like be very careful. And I think it might be the summertime or the fall, but it's like they have those Venus flytraps, and those were the ones most annoying because you got to like use the special golden feather to like jump in them so you don't get hurt. And they have like 3 notes, a handful of them. And if you run out of gold, there's only so many golden feathers in the world itself. And if you don't use them right, you could run out of golden feathers and not be able to collect those. It's a tough level. So then that's the final level. But before the final boss, you think you're going into the final boss. And, we're not going to the final boss. We're going to Grunty's Furnace of Fun. And back in the day, I think if you look, I think this book has a section. It's either at the front of the book. I think so. Yeah, the book has a whole section to where you're so throughout the game. Here it is, Grunty's Furnace Fun. Throughout the game, she has a sister, a fairy sister. It's kind of like Wizard of Oz, right? You got the witch, and then you got the good witch. And she is always saying terrible things about her sister. But what you don't realize is you want to write down what she's saying. As a kid, I have no clue. She's just there randomly throughout the whole lair.
Just
Grunchy's
another weird character saying weird things.
Yeah, she'll be like hiding behind a rock, and you're like, what? And she's like, something about
her underwear.
Yeah, her underwear stinks and has this in it, but you don't realize it. And then, but like in this guidebook, there's a whole section with her picture on, like, write down her favorite toothpaste, her favorite shampoo, where does she sleep, won this contest, and you want to really know that because to get through Grunchy's furnace, like there's different slots. You go one checkered. It's like a board game, right? You just go through one section at a time, and they'll have different things. Where you're like, maybe you have an audio challenge. They'll play a sound. What level had this sound, or what character makes this noise? It really tests your memory. It was hard. And there's
especially when you're not playing with sound on.
Yes.
Yes, Ryan, yes. There's a skull quiz, and if you lose the skull quizzes, if you land on a skull one, like, it's instant death. You get shot right. And most of the time, like, if I got the audio challenge wrong or a Grunty's quiz one wrong, I just get nicked. Ooh, you lose some health. But if you get hurt on a skull quiz, then you die automatically. And you have to start the whole board over. So Brad and I stated our way through this and Googled the questions. We just went to. That's the thing. You can just you can't pause it on the N64 in the middle of it because there's a timer to answer everything. Today I just hit the little home button and it like auto pauses for me. And all right, let's Google this. And that's how we do it today because we're grown adults with limited time. But I think this is a lot of people's least favorite part of the game. Because you just want to get to that final fight at this point, right? And it's difficult. It's like, oh, crap. Especially if, like, you're playing the game sparingly. Like, maybe you've been playing it slowly over, like, 5 or 6 months. And then, like, okay, I finally can come back and finish it. Like, you're on Christmas break. If maybe I could see it being easier if you've, like, played the game constantly. Like, week after week. But, it's tough.
Well, I feel like to some extent, like, you've already played the game to where you've scoured through all the levels for all the notes. Then you show up to the end, and they're like, all right, scour the entire game again to find Grunty's sister.
Yes.
And you're just like, I maybe know where 1 or 2 of them are. But man, it's just like one of those where you're just like, you're so close. It's like, I'm just going to try and power through it and guess my way. And it just doesn't work to guess your way.
No, it doesn't. I mean, you could do it probably over and over, trial and error to die a million times, and you finally figure it out. But once you get beyond this, she runs off. There's actually a whole cutscene. Like, you get there, you save Tootie after. Tootie is saved at the end of this. You get to the goal. She's actually on the stage, and you save her. It's like you rescued the princess, so the game's over. They even do a whole credit scene, and like, heck yeah, we won, dude. We saved you, Tootie. They're having a party. I think they're grilling burgers actually down at their house with all their friends in the game. And then they're like, yep, but you took care of that witch, right? And they're like, what? And there's like this whole big deal, and they freak out like, yeah, hold on, we'll be right back. And then they have to go all the way back upstairs, and they go here, and then because like they didn't actually defeat Grunty, and she could just continue to rain terror on him. So then you start to go into her last lair, and yeah, you have to have 828 notes to unlock the blue egg door. Red feathers is 846, and gold feathers is 864. This basically maximizes your
resources.
Your resource, yeah, it helps you. It gives you the eggs. You'll get 200 eggs. Kazooies with wings. Rough. Let's see. They'll come in handy. Battle if you open a failure mission. So the feathers just restocks your feathers. Also, side note, throughout the game you can unlock like certain cheat codes through Cheeto. He's a book, hides throughout the lair, and you can expand how many eggs and feathers you have. But this egg note makes your eggs even more. The feathers just replenishes them, and then the golden feathers go from 10 to 20. Yeah.
Which is great for invincibility when you need it most. So
Well, it's pretty much just a replenishing of all your materials. You have to find Cheeto to extend all of your basic items, and then the double trouble. This is 882 notes. So throughout the game, you can also collect honeycombs. There's like 2 per level, which will extend your health overall. And so you want to do that. You want to get all those, and then you can unlock the double trouble. And this basically gives you it doubles your health. It gives you a red coating over all your health that you can see right here. So then you got basically 2 bars of health to get through. So she can hit you and take that down. Then you get to your regular health. Then you fight Grunty, and this fight, it has 5 phases. Yeah, it looks like it's got 5 phases, and my gosh, this fight is hard. I mean, it starts off easy. Phase 1 is pretty simple. Dodge, beak pecker, whatever, like 2 or 3 times. And again, this is where the whole game has no boss fights. And it's like they put all their eggs in one basket to come out with one massive boss fight. And my gosh, it was tough. Because Mario has, I want to say, not every level had a boss fight, but you have them, and it's like 3 strikes and you're out. Boom. Bowser, you swing him by the tail, which I have to still say is the most epic way to fight Bowser today, where you swing and throw him into a bomb. But most of those fights was like 1 hit and he's done until the final fight, and it's 3 hits and he's done. This is way more advanced than any Mario boss fight, right? There's 5 different phases, and you have to do different things each phase. Any phase sticks out to you, Brad, that you remember that you hated?
I didn't make it here.
You beat this game.
No, I didn't.
Well, then we need to
I know.
finish
Shame
it.
on me. Shame on me. I love this game. I played it so much. Every single time I either get stuck at Cliff Clock Woods or I get to the game show and I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't want to do the game show. This is awful.
Ryan, what about you?
Phase 3 is the one that I got stuck in most.
Phase 3 is tough.
Yeah, I had the most trouble with that one, I think, overall. So, I remember beating the game, but I remember that I wanted to give up a couple times at the dogfight, where he's flying around and launching things at you, and yeah, not my favorite, but
It's the dog fight. I think is where the intensity really picks up, and it's kind of like why I hate the snowman, because you have to do the beak bomber move where you're flying and you have to you have to crash into her with the beak bomber move, and it's just, for me, I don't know, for me it's always been hard to really just control that and target it properly, so I miss a lot. Sweep attack, firefight, those are simple, kind of like dodge and time your hits up. So I think they're pretty simple. But then, yeah, the dog fight gets difficult. And then after that, I think Jinjo Missiles is probably... I can't remember if it's Jinjo Missiles or the Jinjonator. To me, they're kind of all the same. There's 5 phases here. So Jinjo Missiles, where you have to unlock, you got like statues of Jinjos that pop up, and you got to blow eggs into their statues, and then the casing breaks off, and they crash into her because she puts on a force field shield to protect herself. And then you have one more final Jinjo rise up at the center, and he's massive, and he's called the Jinjonator. And you have to blow eggs into 4 sides of the statue. And I think this is the hardest part, because at this point, Grunty's basically all out of fireball assault. She constantly, it's like you're almost dodging the whole time. And she's just constantly throwing fireball after fireball after fireball at you. And you got to dodge. And that's where I die the most, is right here, because it's really hard and it's intense. And if you can get it, then the Jinjonator hits her, she comes crashing down, breaks off a part of the castle with her, and then she gets trapped underneath at the bottom, and she's stuck under a rock. And that's how basically the game ends. So that's the game. That's Banjo-Kazooie, and it's an awesome game. And yeah, Banjo-Tooie came out 2 years later. And just this week, breaking news, Banjo-Tooie was announced to be coming to the Nintendo Switch Online, which is fantastic. That game picks up, I think, a couple years after this game. And her slave, Klungo, is still trying to lift the rock off of her. The game ends with him like trying to get it off of her, and he's still doing it. And she's covered in, if you remember in 2E, she's covered in bones. So she's just bones at that point. And she's still alive somehow, but she's all bones. So, and her sisters come and rescue her. And that's how 2E starts off, basically picking up after the aftermath of Kazooie. But, I mean, yeah, I love this game, guys. It's a classic, and it's been highly sought and requested to have an HD remake. It's never gotten an HD remake. It was held by Microsoft for the longest time. It's been re-released on Microsoft stuff many times. Then Kazooie finally came to Smash, which just gave a breath of fresh life to the characters. We have amiibos of them now. We have more merchandise than they probably ever had, even in the original run. And Nintendo fans today are obsessed with it, right? But Microsoft still doesn't do much besides, like, hey, let's make merchandise and we'll put it on Nintendo. Fine, at least they put it on the Nintendo consoles. But I don't know. I would love to see Banjo-Kazooie come back. We can get a proper Banjo 3E. That'd be great. Not nuts and bolts. We would. I don't know. Would you guys think Banjo-Kazooie will come back for a future platformer one day?
Oh, eventually Banjo-Kazooie will be back, and it'll be awesome.
I just hope it's on Nintendo.
I think it's just a matter of time, and a matter of whether we live long enough to play it.
Jeez, I hope it comes. And I hope it's on a Nintendo console, because I think the fan base for it is mainly through Nintendo. I really do, to this day. Traven, what about you? Do you think one day we will get a Banjo-Kazooie HD, either a remake or a sequel?
Not if Microsoft still owns it.
Oh, gosh. What about you, Brad? You think we'll ever see a remake of these guys?
I don't know. If enough fans rise up and they see money somewhere, maybe they'll release it. But I don't know. I mean, they did the ukulele was kind of a sort of spin-off.
It was a spiritual successor, yes.
Yeah.
Made by the same people.
But it was still,
not with Rare, but
it didn't quite hit the same itch for me. I know,
correct.
Jacob, it was your jam.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, there's definitely parts where I'm like, this is Banjo-Kazooie, and I love that. But then there's also a lot of parts where I'm like, this didn't stick the landing, and that's why they're redoing that game already. It's supposed to come out sometime soon. So,
but I don't know. I love this game. I remember it so much. Played it to death as a child because you had to collect all those notes.
Yeah.
So it would be so cool if they came out with a new one, and I would just be excited with. I don't know, like you said, we were playing the whatever the Astrobot game. Just like that reminds me so much of Banjo and Kazooie to some extent, and just how creative they were with that game. Just how crazy cool could a new Banjo and Kazooie game be?
I agree with you 100%, and that's why I think the fans are so passionate. And when Microsoft says, like, no one wants to play Banjo-Kazooie anymore, or they can't think of anything creative to do with it, like, what are you talking about? Like, Nintendo does it all the time, and other companies are doing it all the time with their own versions. You just don't want to do it at this point. So, who knows? Maybe we'll get there eventually. Fingers crossed, right? But, well, I mean, with that said, guys, I think this is a long episode, and it's all about Banjo-Kazooie. There wasn't even news or anything, so we'll cap it here. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Traven, for joining Ryan and I on this Banjo-Kazooie episode. It's fun to have it as like a birthday episode for me. So, thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time. Have
Later.
a good one.
Press.